One of the most important assets in growing any company are their employees. But one of the biggest roadblocks to growing a company is when an employee doesn't fit. The sad part is that most employers wait way too long to fire an employee who's not performing, and that ends up costing the company far more money. And those bad employees are kind of like a virus that infect the best team members. Now, not long ago, I shot this video called How to Avoid Culture Killers. And in it, one of the things that I spoke about was how to know when an employee or a team member is no longer a good fit for your company. And more importantly, I laid out a game plan for how to politely terminate the relationship before they begin to affect the rest of your team. Anyway, since then, we've had a ton of questions coming in about how to know when it's time to cut somebody loose. And I just saw another question like that come up today. So I wanted to kind of spend a couple of moments here and speak about this. In my companies, we have a checklist. And it's really important that you have a checklist too, because this should be a policy that every leader on your team follows, and they should know exactly how to follow it perfectly to help you avoid legal issues. And the best way to do that is to have a formal checklist. Anyway, we've got this checklist, and that lists reasons why somebody's no longer a good fit for our company. So much so that they need to be let go. And there's a lot of basic things on there, like dishonesty and fraud and slander and theft and continuous communication issues, or poor performance, or a bad culture fit, or violating company policy, or persistent negativity. And there's more, but as soon as one of those check boxes gets ticked off, we have a meeting with that employee and we clearly discuss and document the issue. And if they don't improve after that meeting, they know that they've got to be let go pretty soon. But there's one unwritten rule that I live by also. And although it's not formally on that list, it's one of the most important things in my head at least. It's when you, as the owner or the CEO or the manager of a company, when you find yourself having arguments in your head with one of your employees. And this is not psychotic, let me be clear here. I'm not talking about you having a personal issue with anyone. I'm talking about an employee who's not meeting their targets, or they're consistently disruptive to everybody else. But maybe you're afraid to fire them because you don't have anyone else for that position lined up yet. Let me give you an example. When I was in the health club industry, I had a 45-minute drive to the office. And that was amazing, right? Because I took meetings on the phone while I was driving, and when I had some really quiet time, I processed a lot of stuff in my head, and I planned things out for the day, and it was just terrific. But there was one time that I had a person working for me who was probably the most arrogant team member that I've ever met. The kind of employee who just swore beyond a shadow of a doubt that the reason the company was doing well was just because of them. And if they left, the company would crumble. That's what they thought. And if you've been an employer for any period of time, or if you ever had somebody like that work for you, then you know that kind of person is a virus. But I was young, and I didn't want to fire them because they were a great salesperson, and I was really money hungry at the time trying to grow that company, and because that one person easily closed more than double the sales of anybody else on the team. But after a while, every day I'd drive 45 minutes to the office, and I'd have a 45-minute argument with that person in my head. Or I'd keep revisiting this conversation that we had the previous day, and I'd get madder and madder and madder, and it was so freaking frustrating. But the end result was that that employee was a distraction to my team because they spoke down to everybody. They were just so arrogant. Also, I was less productive because I couldn't stop thinking about them in a bad way. So within a week, that employee was fired, and our company grew more that quarter than anybody expected because we were a team again, and everybody on the team was motivated to grow. Here's the deal. Knowing when to fire somebody is vital to keeping your team strong. Tell me in the space below, what are some things on your checklist that when an employee does them, you know you have to fire them? Also, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification so you don't miss another video like this.
No matter what stage of growth you're at, we all need an unbiased review of what's working and also what might not be working anymore in our business. Because the greatest cause of stagnation in any company, the reason most companies hit plateaus in their growth, is because they fail to see the roadblocks that stop momentum in its tracks.